Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 39 of the Canberra Football Show, round 16 review. I'm Matt Nicoletti. Joining me today is Michael Georgeski. Michael, how's it going? And not far from the big 4-0.
I know that's just what I was about to say. 40 episodes, nearly there, not quite. We've still got this episode to do before we reach the 40 mark, but nevertheless, it's a great milestone that we've managed to achieve together, and I'm sure we'll be able to celebrate it next Monday. But nevertheless, ready to dive into the football action over the weekend. There was some great results, some great goals as always, and looking forward to breaking it down.
Yeah, and I'm sure Russ will be with us for that one. He's always here for the milestones, isn't he? So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
All right. You want to get started, Michael? What was the first matchup we had? And it's a return to form for a certain club and a certain player as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had Belconnen United defeat Canberra Olympic at McKellar. Matt, it was 4-1 to the home side. Goals through Wells, Flores with a hat trick, and Crawford getting on the score sheet for Canberra Olympic. Belconnen managed to claim yet another win to make it 3 wins on the trot, and they're actually unbeaten in their last 4 games as well. So this is probably the best patch of form that they've actually shown throughout the season. So that they have a lot of confidence right now, Belconnen United. And I think you saw that in the encounter with Olympic. They looked too strong. Their attack looked probably the most dangerous it's ever looked all season, to be quite honest. And I think that has come down to, like you mentioned at the top, Matt, of a certain player hitting form, and that was Luca Flores, scoring a hat trick, and getting himself, back on the score sheet, which we were so used to seeing last season in that role that he had with Belconnen United, where he was in those forward areas a lot more, getting himself in good positions, and he was, one of Belconnen's best performers last season, and he was able to find the back of the net on numerous occasions last season. It seemed as though this season he had it, he's taken a bit of a step back in terms of his role going forward, but I think over the last few games, and certainly in this run of form that Belconnen are in, he's had a massive impact, and those are the sort of areas that they want to get him into. And I think you saw that on display with the 3 goals that he scored. They want him in those attacking areas. He's got good pace, he has a great eye for goal as well. So they'll be hoping for more of that. That's for sure. Belconnen United. On the flip side, Matt, that Olympic have lost 3 of their last 4 games now. They'll start to feel a little bit of pressure and some nervousness about cementing their top 4 chances. However, with 6 games still left to play for them, and they're only 6 points behind Belconnen, who are 4th, Olympic have that key game in hand, and that could prove to be absolutely crucial come to the end of the season. So they obviously still have a great chance to finish inside that top 4, and they can't let this result hamper the spirits too much, because like I mentioned, they still have that chance to sneak in, depending obviously on how the next sort of 5-6 weeks are going to play out in the rest of the competition, and how the competition will look come the season end and the top 4. They shouldn't get discouraged, and I'm sure Robbie Catnach will spread that message throughout the squad.
Yeah, look, it was a massive victory for Belconnen. You mentioned they're undefeated in their last 4. This is their 3rd win in a row, which is huge for them. Like we kept mentioning before that win, they hadn't won a game since that Canberra Croatia win in round 5. And you mentioned Luca Flores' return to goal scoring form, but to be fair to him, he's still been one of their best players this season. He's been asked a different role. He's been asked to be more of a creator, less of a
goal scorer,
more of a creator, less of a goal scorer. But in saying that, though, the last couple of weeks have been relying on him, pushing him more up front. And I think he's going to have a very strong end to the season. I think they're trying to push him further up front and put a little more responsibility in terms of that creative play on someone like a Dustin Wells, for example, who what an assist he had for that. I think it was the third Flores goal.
Yeah, it was
all
the
over
third
the
one.
top.
Yep.
Absolutely fantastic from there. And then, of course, he got a goal himself. So he's also returning to some goal scoring form also. For Belconnen now, it's about keeping that consistency 3 in a row. If they can keep it going, if this is the time and this is the sort of trajectory they're going to have to the end of the season, they're hitting form at the right time and they've re-picked up their form at the right time. But you could see, in terms of Flores, you could see how elated he was. You could see how relieved he was when he scored that first goal. And I think he's going to have an awesome end to the season. Like I said, not that he didn't have a really good season so far. It's just that now he's going to be more relied on in terms of goal scoring. Like you mentioned, in terms of Olympic, I agree. I don't think they're going to be discouraged at all. There's still a long way to go in this season. And 6 points, as we've seen so far in this season, is not that big a margin. At the moment, everyone is still beating everybody. And I do expect Olympia to bounce back within the next week or so. All right, moving on to Monaro Panthers, West Canberra Wanderers 2-1. Woods and Bassa Silk were the goals, and geez, what great goals they were. And Vlaslovsky with the goal for West Canberra Wanderers. I was at this match commentating with Russ. And one thing I have to say is Monaro they've found that balance over the last month or so. But this match I thought was a really good example of Monaro finding that balance between attack and defense. They were the dominant team within the first 20 or so minutes and moving forward. Near the end of the half, West Canberra Wanderers started to find their groove in terms of keeping possession of the ball, but they weren't able to do much until their goal. They kept having the ball. They kept trying to push forward, but Monaro were very resolute defensively. They were very their shape was very was worked very well, and West Canberra just couldn't do much with the ball until that goal. And the Seb Woods goal, what a strike that was. You could see he went with his right and then his left, and then he went with his right, hit the player off his left. Brilliant boot in the back of the net. And Ben Bassa-Silk, once again, Michael, it seems like every game I've watched of him, in terms of like when I've watched the full match, when I've been at a match for Monaro, he starts on the bench, he comes off the bench, and he does something like that, an absolute banging goal to give Frank Keisha some more headaches in terms of how he's going to have this team selection. And you look at the strength of that bench. On the bench, Michael, there was Jérémy Habtemariam coming back from injury, Sam Habtemariam, and Ben Bassa-Silk as well. So they're 3 players that can easily be in the starting lineup. So I guess it's a mixture. It's a headache in terms of who you're going to put on, but it's also great to have the options as well. It's the damned if you do, damned if you don't point of issue that coaching brings. But at the end of the day, Frank would be happy to have those options, and it seems like everyone's working well, and Monaro hitting peak form at the right time of the season. In terms of West Canberra, though, unfortunately for them, this is their 3rd loss on the trot, and they are, losing form when it matters most. I mentioned last week on the show with Paul Townsley that
I think it's their 4th straight loss.
4th straight loss.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then not the great form that they would have liked. And I mentioned last week on the show that this is the first time, or last week was the first time they'd been out of the top 4 since the end of round 1. That proves how well they've done so far this season. So they haven't had this extended sort of poor form like they're having at the moment. But in saying that, though, they didn't play like a team that has lost 3 or 4 matches in a row. They kept the ball well. They weren't able to break Monaro down too much in the first half, but in the second half, they kept trying. They got the goal. They got that little bit of luck. Russ mentioned it's like the first time they've scored in a certain amount of games. I don't have the specific stat on top of my head, but it was in quite a bit. So now they've got that goal. They've got that bit of luck. Now they just need that bit of luck and keep using that hard work. And I'm sure they will bounce back, because Ulysses De Silva and his side always find their way to bounce back. But unfortunately for them, it's an extended period in terms of them trying to bounce back. Any quick thoughts on this one before we move on?
Yeah, I think, like you have thoroughly mentioned, the form of Monaro and how they've come hitting form at the right time. It's very similar to Belconnen in terms of both of those sides are playing their best football so far this season in this part of the campaign, and how well that's going to boast, especially for Monaro, looking to get that elusive top 4 finish that they desperately so crave. And that's why they brought in a personality like Frank Casher to make that happen. And there was definitely some thoughts at the start of the season where, I think after watching, the first 5-6 rounds, that, they were obviously having some chemistry issues. They had obviously a whole number of new players introduced to the squad, even though quite a lot of those players had played together at previous clubs. Nevertheless, in a new environment, in a new team, things are going to take time to, develop. And I think that's what we were exposed to in those first, 5-6 matches or even beyond, that they just struggled to sort of click and gel. And, Frank was, experimenting, with different players in different positions, just trying to really find that winning formula. And it has finally come to fruition, that, that tweaking and that the patience that he's shown to give things a chance. He's reaping the rewards of that right now. And Monaro are playing fantastic football, and, they're right there as well, to get inside that top 4. They've also got a game in hand from Belconnen. So, they're only 2 points off Belconnen, who are in 4th, like I mentioned previously. But they've got that game in hand. So, I mean, they win that game in hand, Monaro will be in the top 4.
And for those who don't know, Russ said on commentary this week that match in hand against Tigers will be played Wednesday, August 11th. Wednesday, August 11th at Riverside. So look forward to that one. That should be, of course, that's a replay of the FA Cup qualifying final. So that should be an absolute cracker. And before you move on to the next match, Michael, I forgot to mention that now West, that win, you mentioned how it puts them 5th. Monaro 2 points off Belco. That also puts West Canberra into 6th place. 4 points off Belco in the top 4, 2 points off Canberra Olympic in 7th place. All right, what's our third matchup? There were some cracking goals in this one.
Yeah, there certainly was. It was Tigers FC yet again picking up another win, Matt. 3-1 away from home against Gungahlin United. Galevsky, Oida, and Griffiths found the back of the net for the visitors, whilst Michael John found the back of the net for Gungahlin United. I mean, Tigers continue their perfect run of form. It's their 6th win in a row, Matt, which is absolutely remarkable. They're obviously the most informed team in the competition, and we obviously mentioned the form of Monaro and the Belconnens, but obviously Tigers have just taken that to a new level over the last 6 weeks. And their last loss came in the league at the hands of the defending champions, Canberra, Croatia, in a 2-1 loss. And that was back in May. And we're now at the start of August. So that just goes to show how good they've been in that period of time. Galevsky found the back of the net yet again. He's in some great form right now. And I'm sure Ryan Grogan, that's exactly what he would have wanted from Galevsky. And that's exactly why he brought him over to Tigers from Gungahlin. It was a fantastic low free kick that just managed to find its way underneath the wall into the bottom corner. So it was a great piece of skill and inventiveness there to open the scoring. And obviously Oida found the back of the goal from a shot outside the area, leaving the keeper rooted in his spot. Before another former Gungahlin United player, Lachlan Griffiths, managed to go on this sort of mazy run down the middle of the pitch, laid the ball off, and he kind of just kept moving. You know how defenders, they'll make a bit of a stride and they might offload the ball, and then that's when they sort of just peel back to their position. But I think given the time of the game, being 2-0 up as well, he thought, why not sort of just put myself in the mix? The ball might fall to me, and he got himself in the box, and it was a great finish as well. And he was obviously very ecstatic as well, as you could see in the celebrations. And obviously, Michael John got a consolation goal there at the end, another good finish as well, but a little bit obviously too little, too late. from Gungahlin. But I mean, look at the run that Gungahlin United managed to get themselves on as well. Heading into this match, they were unbeaten in 6 games. So we've got quite a few teams that were actually in a bit of form heading into this weekend, Matt. And Gungahlin had 4 wins and 2 draws in that 6-match span. So I don't think this will dishearten them at all. Obviously, they've got a spot in the top 4. They've been at that 3rd position for a bit now. And they've just got to obviously put this result behind them and they start again next week, because it's so important for them just to make sure that they take it a game at a time and cement their top 4 position.
Yeah, look, very impressive form from Tigers, like you mentioned. We've mentioned over the last few weeks, they really seem like the informed team at the moment. And for Gungahlin, who are another informed team, to drop to the Tigers, like you mentioned, I don't think it's going to deter their progress at all, because Tigers just seem to be on that level at the moment where they can't do like a lot of wrong, and it's very hard for teams to get on top of them, at least for extended periods of time. They were in, as you can see from the goals, they were in large spells of the match. They were able to do really well. Gungahlin got back in it in the second half, though. They got that goal, but even before that, they sort of tried to neutralize some of their attacking players, and they were able to do it. And with that goal, like you mentioned, they needed Griffiths to come from the back with that great run to sort of get them back into goal scoring ways in that regard. So Gungahlin definitely have positives about them. Tigers, though, they're on that level where they seem dare I say, unstoppable in terms of their last few matches. I wouldn't be surprised if they go the rest of the season unbeaten. I guess a lot of it depends on how the midweek matches are going to go, because unfortunately for a lot of teams, midweek matches, obviously it's good because they get to play the matches, but sometimes they're not able to find the same sort of rhythm as they would when they're playing, weekend train regular matches than weekend in that regard. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But some of those goals, Michael Oida, that was a fantastic strike. It's great to see him back in the NPL1, and then Golevsky as well. He's gone on a bit of a streak as well with some of those goals. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out with both sides. But like you mentioned, Gungahlin have gotten themselves into quite a good position. Tigers, like I mentioned, still have 2 matches in hand. Gungahlin, on the other hand, still have 1 match in hand. So they're 7 points off Canberra, Croatia now, but they could slice it down to 4 from the table I'm seeing anyway, if there's any mistakes.
Yeah.
That is Sporting TG issue right there. All right, Michael, last matchup. Unfortunately for Tuggies, Tuggeranong United, it's another loss, coming 2-1 at the hands of Canberra, Croatia. Let's not forget, though, Canberra, Croatia, this is their first win in 3 matches. They were on a 3-match losing streak, losing, obviously, 2 matches, 5-1, and then against Tigers, 2-0. In this one, like we mentioned, they captured that all-important victory. All goals, all 3 of the goals came in the first 45 minutes. 2 well-taken goals from Kalfas, who beat his defender one-on-one, smashing the ball into the far left corner. And then Tomeski earned the team exactly what they needed to keep the pressure on Tigers FC. There was some confusion for the Tuggeranong equalizer after a scramble in the box. Saw Slavic do just enough to put the ball over the line. However, the goal was not given right away. But once under review between the officials, the goal was given. But as was proven the case all season long, the visitors struggled to find the back of the net beyond that 1 goal that they scored. And it's just proven to be too much of an uphill battle. 6 games left, 11 points off the top. We mentioned 2 weeks ago when you were last on the show, Michael, they're going to have a perfect end to the season. They're going to need at least 1 team that are like 3 or 4 above them to just not sort of win a match for the rest of the season. So unfortunately for Tuggies, it does seem a little too little too late, unfortunately. But like we keep mentioning, it's not like they don't seem like a team that's about to be relegated in terms of the results and the play that they're having. So what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a great result for Canberra, Croatia, as it puts them back on track after losing 3 in a row. And we were sort of asking questions about them and, their play and their confidence levels. But I mean, there's no better match for them to get back into the groove than a match against a side that's been struggling all season long. It's a game where you need to get 3 points. And that's exactly what Canberra, Croatia did. They went out there and did what they had to do, because if they hadn't, that would have posed even more questions and concerns heading into the final part of the season, because they weren't playing great. They had a couple of heavy defeats in that 3-match losing skid, but they've managed to get back on top and back in the winners column, which is ever so important, especially when you consider the form of Tigers as well, who are ahead of them on the table. Obviously, they're only 2 points behind Tigers, but Tigers have 2 games in hand, so Tigers can easily make that an 8-point advantage once they play the same number of games as Canberra, Croatia. As for Tuggeranong, I mean, Matt, we've been saying it all season long. I think after Tuggeranong drew those 6 matches in a row, we were thinking, they're playing well in patches. They're obviously doing enough to not deserve losses, but they're not quite doing enough to earn victories. But we thought at one point that they would turn a corner, and just like most teams in the competition, you pick up a win or two and you can kind of go forward from that. But they haven't managed to do that all season. They've really struggled for personnel up front to, be a consistent presence in the final third. It's something that they've struggled all season long with, and it's ultimately what's going to hurt them in the end. And it's sad because, they're a great club. Obviously, they don't have the, financial, the financial situation of a Canberra, Croatia or a Tigers or other clubs like that. Obviously, they're down the pecking order when it comes to that aspect of the game, but they're a side that always show great heart. But obviously, it's just proven not to be enough, and it's sad because I think that they are looking like they're going to head down. And for someone like Mitch Stevens, who we've known for quite a while, Matt, we've talked to him on numerous occasions and gotten to know how much of a great guy and honestly how much of a great coach he is as well. Obviously, he's the only man to lead Tuggeranong to a top 4 finish in that 13-year absence that they had from the top 4 when they qualified back in 2018 for the final series. But this just seems an impossible hill to climb at this point. They're just too far off, and the games are shortening. We're reaching that point of the season where they're going to get relegated.
And yeah, if they don't, so we said 6 matches, 11 points the difference. So you would think if they don't get a result in the next couple of matches or a couple of results, then yeah, unfortunately for them, it will be confirmed soon in that regard. And we'll see how they go this weekend. Let's see if they can bounce back. And
yep,
we've got the round 17 predictions and previews coming up right now. Michael, what's our first matchup of the weekend?
Yeah, so we've got Canberra Olympic up against Gungahlin United this Saturday, 3 p.m. at O'Connor enclosed. I'm going to go for a Gungahlin United win, Matt. I think they were in great form before running into that hurdle of Tigers FC. And I mean, it's a massive hurdle at the moment, that Tigers team. They're playing fantastic football at the moment. So I don't think too many people were expecting Gungahlin to win that match anyway. But I mean, it's just a little bump in the road for them. They were in great form before that, and I expect them to bounce back against Canberra Olympic. What about you?
This has always been a good fixture this year. I remember calling in the first, I think it was the third round with Russ. It was a fantastic match. Tale of 2 halves. Olympic first one, Gungahlin second one. I think it ended up being a draw, if I'm not mistaken. This match is going to be a very, very good encounter. Lots of attacking football I think we're going to see here. I'm going to say Gungahlin are just going to edge it, but wouldn't be surprised if any of the results happen in this one.
Next up, we have Monaro Panthers against Belconnen United at Riverside Stadium this Saturday at 5:30 p.m. This one's a really tough one for me to call. Both sides unbeaten in their last 4. I'm going to say a draw.
Okay.
I don't think there's too much separating both these sides at the moment. I think you have to pay respect to both the forms that both these teams are in at the moment. I can't see much separating them. And if they do, it's going to be probably a goal in it to really prove the difference. But in terms of, what I just mentioned about their form heading into this game, they're both playing very good football at the moment as they look to cement a top 4 position. But I'm going to go for a draw in this one.
I was going to lean for a draw, Michael, but after calling the game on the weekend, Monaro, the talent that Monaro can bring off the bench, I think their depth is just going to make a difference between it. Yeah, I think there'll only be 1 goal between them, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a draw either.
Next up, we have Canberra, Croatia against West Canberra Wanderers. Deakin Stadium, 3 p.m. on Sunday, August 8th. This is another very tough game, Matt. Obviously, West Canberra in a rut with 4 losses in a row. Canberra, Croatia have just gotten back in the winner's circle. But West Canberra have proven to be a tough test for Canberra, Croatia this season, Matt, in the games that we've seen between the two teams. I'm going to go for a Canberra, Croatia win.
Yeah, look, I'm going to go for a Canberra Croatia win as well. Of course, if that's the case, then that'll be 5 losses in a row for West Canberra. And if Olympic, one thing we have to consider as well, if Olympic beat Gungahlin, West Canberra will be 7th place because Olympic will leapfrog them by 1 point. Yeah, look, I'm going to go with the Canberra Croatia victory, but I think this one will be closer than what people expect. And if they do get 5 losses in a row, that's form they would need to turn around soon if they want to make the finals. But let's wait and see. West Canberra have pulled off a few fantastic victories, and one of them was against the likes of Canberra, Croatia in the first round of matches. Second round of matches, not so much. So let's see how that one goes. What's our last matchup?
Our last matchup is Tigers FC up against Tuggeranong United, Sunday, August 8th, 3 p.m. at Nijong. We talked about, especially the last 2 games, Matt, about how, mainly how in form Monaro Panthers and Belconnen are, and you can't really separate those 2 sides in terms of the performances they've displayed over the last month. But in this match with Tigers and Tuggeranong, you've literally got teams at opposite ends of the spectrum. You've got Tigers FC, top of the league, playing the best football of the season, have won 6 in a row, haven't lost since May. And then you've got Tuggeranong, who are still searching for their first win of the season. Relegation is borderline. So it's a tale of just 2 seasons in this encounter from what I see. And I see Tigers FC winning.
Yeah, perfectly summed up, Michael. I agree. I do see Tigers FC winning. You'd think if Tuggeranong United are going to make a hard comeback, it would have to start this weekend, and it's a very tough task, like you mentioned, against the team that is in the best form, playing the best football, and just seem like a steam train at the moment. Hello, everybody. NPLW segment show now. Jérémy Magan with the big smile. He's back. He's very happy after Olympic. I was about to say Lyonnais. Olympic Marseille got their first preseason friendly win, didn't they?
Well, no, it's not the first preseason win. It was the best win against Villarreal, but not the first win. I'm very happy because Paris Saint-Germain lost this morning the French Super Cup against Lille. That makes me happy.
All right, let's get started. Massive weekend, as always, NPLW. It's really starting to hot up in that 3rd and 4th position, the race for the 3rd and 4th place. Let's start with the reigning champions, Canberra, Croatia, 4-0 against West Canberra Wanderers. The goal scorers were Alice Churchill, Brittany Palombi, Berkeley, Grace Gill. Big win for Canberra, Croatia, like I mentioned, as they regain top spot now with those 3 points. They, of course, have now defeated West Canberra Wanderers 4 times competitively this season, 3 times in the league, and then, of course, in that Fed Cup final as well. And an interesting statistic is Canberra, Croatia have at least scored 4 times against West Canberra in each match that they've played against West Canberra. Tough day at the office, though, for West Canberra. This loss knocks them down to 6th place in the ladder. It's their 3rd loss in a row. And like we mentioned last week, it's not the sort of form they would like, sort of similar to the men's. Their good form has now dropped off, and it's not the sort of form they want if they want to make the finals. A lot to break down in this one, Jeremy. What did you make of it?
Well, I think it was a straight performance by Canberra, Croatia. 3rd game this week after the midweek game against Gungahlin.
3-2,
and 3 wins. 3-2 win, exactly. And 3 wins, and it's CUA, Gungahlin, and West Canberra. So it's 3 teams that are potential opponents when it's going to come to the final. It's the psychological ascendant. It's what we've seen from Canberra, Croatia all season. With Alice Churchill scoring, it meant that every single player in the starting 11 for Canberra, Croatia this week, because Chantel Jones was the goalkeeper, has scored this season for Canberra, Croatia. So it's also a very good, a very good situation to be in if you're Nick Brosnich, because sure, there's Brittany Palombi who's now scored 22 goals, but you're also getting goal from anywhere on the park. Canberra, Croatia were who they are every single week. The midfield was dominating, defensively strong and dense, and Chantel Jones obviously in goalkeeper very reassuring. And up front, you can't give them too many opportunities. Grace Gill needed 3 or 4 shots to be able to get in the back of the nets, but she eventually was. And it was I think it was just a professional, experienced performance from a team who had to manage 3 games within a week and who did so really well.
In terms of West Canberra, we've talked a lot about Canberra, Croatia, and how well they've done this season. And that's a very interesting stat you brought up, the fact that everyone scored that was on the pitch. In terms of West Canberra, though, what do they need to do to turn it around?
Look, I think we've seen what they can do. We've seen how dense and solid they can be defensively, and then how good they can be on the counter attack or on transition play. They're missing a little bit of link up these days. I mean, they've also faced some very good defenses. I think in Sofia Cevara they have a very good striker, but now people also know that she's a good striker, so they just don't give her an inch of space, and it's costly for West Canberra. If you look at the team, we were surprised early in the season by Alex McKenzie. We were surprised by Sofia Cevara. We've seen those players doing things that we were not expecting. The pace of McKenzie, the pace of Kiki Leighton at the very beginning as well, and it looks like the teams first were surprised, and then everyone did their job and analyzed the way West Canberra played and try and do their best to actually, consider them as who they are, a proper contender for the top 4, took them seriously, analyzed their game, and decided to put the right game plans around it. You didn't see Canberra, Croatia pressing that high this weekend. They were, sort of waiting at the halfway line and then trying to intercept any pass that was going to go throughout the forwards. And that's the way to play against West Canberra, because West Canberra wants you to attack, and to leave space behind your defense. If you do what Canberra Croatia has done this weekend, which is not going all out and just trying to let them get out of their comfort zone so that you can go behind their defense, it's recipe for success, obviously, as long as you have the talent up front that Canberra Croatia has.
Our next matchup, well, it was an absolute cracker, lads. There was 9 goals in this, so we love goal fests, don't we? So we had Gungahlin United pick up a 5-4 win over Canberra Olympic. Sykes scoring a hat-trick for the hosts, and Cook finding the score sheet as well. On the other side of that, we had Gungahlin United with Natalie DeMarco, Robertson, Michelle Heyman, and Brown scoring a double to cement a very, very important victory for Gungahlin United. Like I mentioned, guys, it was an absolutely insane game of football with 9 goals in it. You didn't want to blink because you'd probably miss a goal in this one. It was such a topsy-turvy game, which ended up with Gungahlin, getting in front of the action twice, and then the second time was the all-important winner from Jade Brown. So it just proved to be an absolutely outstanding game of football. And Olympic fought back to take the lead with none other than Sykes getting on the scoreboard with with a hat trick in 10 minutes, which is just absolutely phenomenal. And she's also at 22 goals for the season, which is absolutely remarkable considering Palombi also has 22 as well. So that's a neck and neck battle to see who's going to end up with the golden boot out of those two players. They would have been obviously shattered that all that fight that they showed to get back into the contest, that they didn't even come away with at least a point. It just proves how crazy this game was. Jeremy, what were your thoughts on it? I'm sure there are a lot that you could say because there were 9 goals in it. It was an absolutely remarkable game.
Yeah, a lot happened. I thought I had Ash Sykes on 21 goals. I think Brittany Palombi is still up front, no? Unless I missed a goal somewhere.
I think she is on 21. Yeah, I think Sykes 21. Is on 21.
So Palombi still, Brittany still has the lead. Careful.
To clarify that, on commentary, I said that they were tied. That's because I forgot about the midweek match.
Yeah, the Gungahlin goal, right? Yeah.
I forgot about that, and because I hadn't looked at the statistics in the middle of the week, so I just assumed they were both on.
I told Nick after the game, I was like, Brittany is going to be pissed because Ash is back with her, and then he was like, no, she's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, sorry. But back to the game, a great game, and like you say, you couldn't blink, and you shouldn't be late to the game either because the first goal came after a couple of minutes. I think it was a lot of positive points to take from both sides. I mean, Gungahlin took the lead 3 times, 2-0, and then it was 3-4 Olympic, then it was 4-3 for Gungahlin, then 4-4, then 5-4, and what was very interesting, I think, for Nicole Begg and for the Olympic side is the first 2 goals, which is a set piece and a bit of a scramble into the box, could have thrown them into a loop and could have stunned them, but no, Olympic kept their head high, kept pushing. The performance from Ash Sykes, I mean, a hat trick in 8 minutes. I don't think I've seen that from recent memory. I don't think I've ever seen that. So it's a pretty striking performance. I keep saying it, but it's 21 goals now from within the box, which is where Ash Sykes lives clearly. So some beautiful passing football as well within that. It was great to see Olympic playing at the level that they played, despite the fact that they've conceded all those goals. Aurelia Haynes was actually in pretty good form. I mean, there may be 1 goal where she can do a little bit better on the free kick, but she stopped Michelle Heyman quite a few times. Gungahlin, at the end of the day, I guess is reassuring themselves right now that they deserve a spot in the final 4. They are getting their momentum. They were close to getting a point against Canberra, Croatia midweek, and we said Canberra, Croatia, it's a performance to win 3 times. Gungahlin played 3 times as well, and Gungahlin doesn't necessarily have the same depth that the Jikin side has. So it's great to see the Gunners performing. It's great to see them, putting up the fights and scoring that last goal 10 minutes before the end. Good performance by Jade Brown as well. She was running back and forth. She has a couple of opportunity. When the penalty shootout comes, when the penalty kick comes, LKI Tolu leaves it to Jade Brown. There's a little bit of intimidation play, I guess, by both Heather Garriok and Ashley Sykes, who point out that the ball wasn't where the penalty spot is supposed to be. When you're Jade Brown, you're a teenager, you have 2 legends of the sports coming around you when you're about to take a penalty. They're moving the ball, they're touching the ball. All that psychological play goes in there, and yet Jade Brown, cool as a cucumber, couple of steps, finds the top right corner. I thought he was brilliant, and it's a great omen for a player who's going to go to America soon. I think at the end of the day, both coach will be happy with the performance. Clearly, they could be better defensively. Otherwise, you don't concede that many goals. But it's reassuring to see that you can score that much when there's only 5 games to play. And right now, those 2 teams are in 3rd and 4th position. It's not going to be easy for them to keep it until the end.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before that, Matty Moore mentioned on the show, he's like, they need to start, Gungahlin, that is, need to start finding form soon.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned it, Michael, as well, saying that the match against Canberra, Croatia was going to be key. That ended up being postponed. They ended up getting a win against Tuggeranong, which I hadn't gotten a win in a while, so it gave them a lot of confidence. put in a very good performance midweek. We forgot to mention against Canberra, Croatia. It took the last minute of the match for Canberra, Croatia to get that winner. So they're really coming into form at the right time, and it seems like those questions that Maddie was asking, they've seemed to have answered it so far in the last 3 or so matches. And in the next matchup we have, Jérémy and I called this one, Tuggeranong. Tuggies have finally done it. First win of the season in the NPLW, their first clean sheet as well as their first brace in a singular game. So a lot of milestones that the girls reached this week. Great determination to get this win. From the very first minute to the last minute of this matchup, I constantly said that their intensity, they were constantly pushing, they were constantly pressing Wagga back. And their defensive solidity, I thought, was also very key for them this game. I think that should help them. Their defensive solidity in the clean sheet, that will give them confidence heading into Canberra, Croatia, where, let's not forget, there was one of those matches where Canberra, Croatia won 6 or something. Was it 6 or something nil? But 4 of those goals didn't come until literally the last 10 minutes, and they were very solid defensively. So they're going to take a lot of those positives throughout the season and this clean sheet into the match next week against Canberra, Croatia. So congratulations. They've worked very hard to get to this point, and everyone involved with the club, you could see how elated they were at the end of the matchup. Wagga, on the other hand, they were just unable to get into this game. I felt, like I mentioned, Tuggeranong pressed them back. They pressed them heaps from the first minute to literally the start, the last minute. Unfortunately for Wagga, though, 2 injuries early on. Kimberly Morgan came off with an injury. Anna Nolan came off and with an injury, came off with a stretcher as well, and got a knock to the knee. The match was delayed for several minutes due to that. I hope both girls are okay, and wish them speedy recovery if they are serious injuries. And Jérémy, in terms of Wagga, before we get into Tuggies, how hard is it to sort of get back into a game when you've seen Abby Nolan, for example, not able to get up and needing to get stretchered off? They've still got a little more than a half, to play. It's very hard to get back into a game like that, is it not?
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, they weren't properly in the game to start with. Tuggeranong had picked them up cold and had started pressing high, and it was hard for them to get the ball out. And then you lose Abby Nolan Hodges, who was holding the midfield properly and was allowing Christina Graver-Campos and Piper Lockley and Megan Castle to play a little bit offensively. She gets injured. You have to put one of your creative players down into the midfield. Kimberly Cameron gets injured before her, so you have to put in 2 players that aren't used to play first grade NPLW. It's a lot of circumstances that are hard to overcome, especially when you're playing against a team that as determined as Tuggeranong to get their first win, finally to get that monkey off their back. Obviously, we keep saying it, how tough it is this year for Sam Gray down in the Riverina. I was asking him today about the girls there. It's under investigation. They've done some tests, but he reminded me that they're trying their best. It's their 14th and 15th injury of the season for a group that had 28 players to start with. Any club will struggle with that. We know how hard it is to travel week in, week out, up and down, and it's probably hard on the girls to do that as well. And when every time you travel, it's almost every time it's a loss. You lose players and injury. Kudos to Wagga City and to the player, the staff down there, and to Sam Gray for keep bringing in and keep believing and keep playing their football. It's like everything, luck turns, and this year clearly luck isn't on their side. But like we said in the commentary, Matt, only a couple of years ago, half of those girls were under 17 champions, so the talent is there and the motivation is there. It's just when everything is against you, like it was again yesterday, it's hard to get a result. Like you said, the game is stopped for 12 minutes, and for 12 minutes, the girls are wondering what's going on with their teammates. Getting back into the game is never going to be an easy task.
And in terms of Tuggeranong, how hard have they worked to get to this point?
It's a fantastic result. It's great work that Paulo Romero has done since he started. We've seen those girls leaving the field in tears, thinking that they had done everything they could and just couldn't get a result, couldn't get a trick to work. They got that 1-1 against CUA that looked a lot like a win. We've seen a lot of disappointment from a team that fights hard, and every time the few things that didn't work out their way was a bit of lack of focus or lack of execution up front. I mean, yesterday I feel like the game could have gone either way. They score at the very, very end of the first half for 45th plus 10. What was the score? The score from the goal, sorry, from Sofia Bui. But I feel like if it's 5-0 at halftime for Tuggeranong, it's deserved as well. They had so many opportunities. Clearly, there's, they're not used to be in the middle of the box that much because they're not scoring chances that you think that they should score. But that win, those 2 goals by Sofia Bui are going to help, building that confidence, are going to help those girls believing that all that hard work eventually does pay off. That's, I think, the most important. They got their reward. We've seen them defending so hard and so bravely, and we've seen all this effort they put it through, and we never seen a reward. Finally, they got those 3 points, and it's a season to forget, but it's very, very good signs for next season.
Yeah, and stay tuned. I should have my midweek interview should be with Paulo Romero this week,
Right.
so that should be up on around Thursday. Like usual, Michael, what's our last matchup of the week?
Yeah, so our last matchup was Belconnen United getting a victory over the Canberra United Academy 2-0, both goals falling to Talia Backhouse. That's 5 goals in her last 2 games, so she's in a rich vein of form at the moment, which will certainly please Michael Zukowski. A second loss for CUA. It knocks them out of 4th place, and they've actually moved down into 5th. By Gungahlin via a considerable goal difference margin of 16, which is astounding. But nevertheless, Belconnen United did what they had to do. The CUA always proves to be a tough matchup, given how technical they are and how they approach games. But Belconnen United put that in the back of their mind, but they executed what they needed to do to maintain their status at the top of in and around the top of the NPLW ladder. Obviously, it's neck and neck between them and Canberra, Croatia. So they did exactly what they needed to do, which was to get 3 points to stay close. So they're 3 points behind Canberra, Croatia. So you got Canberra, Croatia at the top of the table, and Belconnen United currently in 2nd place. Jérémy, what were your thoughts on this contest? Because it seems like now until the end of the season, it'll just be a matter of Belconnen United doing whatever they can to make it as difficult for Canberra, Croatia as they can for the premiership, and then heading into finals football as well.
Yeah, and they face each other in 3 weeks now, around 19. So that's going to be a great game to watch. Yeah. Look, I think it was a very solid performance by Belconnen, a serious performance. It's always hard to play against the academy. Michaela Thornton was saying earlier this week in an interview for Capital Football. I don't know if it was you or not, Matt.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
So she was interviewed, and she said that they feel like they're in form. Belconnen, they feel like they're fit. They didn't know if they were 15-year-old fit like the Canberra United player are, and she showed that she was a standout yesterday as usual, but in a position where she had a bit more freedom because she had Sam Price and Sarah Johnston playing with her in the midfield. So she was free to go offensively as she wished. And so many times her run forward just pierced through the midfield, and she's just almost unstoppable. I'm surprised she didn't score a goal because she found herself a lot in the box up front. When you have the passing quality and the technique of Olivia Bonford on one side, and then the size and the speed of Talia Backhouse and Kira Bobin on the other, it's always going to be hard for a young team like the Academy to stop them all of the times. Clearly, Talia Backhouse had a few opportunities. Twice she finds herself in front of Chloe Lincoln, and twice it works. It's not to say that Canberra United didn't deserve better, but it shows where the experience is, and it shows that when they have the momentum, Belconnen know how to use it. the rest of the game was really well managed by Zakowski and his troops. They knew that the academy was going to run for 90 minutes. They just waited patiently, made sure that there were no space in the back. Tiana Jaber with another fantastic performance in the defense, very solid, not hesitating to bring some physicality to make sure that the academy players can go where they want to go. And then that's a win that, as you say, is very important for Belconnen, because right now they need to make sure that they keep up with Canberra Croatia's pace, and they need to make sure that when they're going to face them in 3 weeks' time, they do get a result if they want to get a title.
Absolutely. It's going to be a cracking game in 3 weeks' time, most definitely. Matt, do you have any final thoughts before we move into the round 17 predictions?
Yeah, I think you summed it up well, saying Belconnen United got to make it as difficult as possible for Canberra Croatia in these last remaining 5 or so rounds. It's going to be an interesting end to it. CUA, I'm going to be intrigued to see how they bounce back from this as well. Because they've got an interesting test this weekend, like we're going to mention right now. Let's get straight into it. Round 17 predictions and previews. Let's start with the first matchup, the only Saturday matchup of NPLW this weekend. Belconnen United, Canberra Olympic, Saturday, August 7th, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. I'm going to go with a Belco win for this one. It's going to be interesting to see how Olympic do defensively, because we've seen how well they've improved defensively. But this weekend, it could just be an anomaly result, considering that these teams, the Gunners and Olympic, always score a lot of goals against each other. But we've seen how much they've improved defensively, especially against the big sides. Let's see if that comes into play again for Olympic. But I think Belco will have just too much for Olympic in this one. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a Belconnen United victory, Matt. Purely just based on the fact that they need to keep the pressure on Canberra Croatia until they play them in 3 weeks' time. So it's just vital for them to keep on winning up until that point.
Jérémy?
I'll go for a draw just to be trivial, but also because I think it's going to be a cracking of a game. We've seen Canberra Olympic scoring 4 times this week. They look like they are in full force, and yes, they've conceded too many goals, but they also know who they're going to be up against, playing at Makela against Belconnen and the Blue Devils. I think it's going to be a very big game for both teams, and both teams are going to have to be 100% if they want to get the 3 points. Olympic need the 3 points, because if they don't get a win, there's a chance that they are knocked out of the top 4, and they still have some pretty tough game to work out after that. So I'll go for a draw, just for the simple fact that clearly it's going to be one of those games that starts to matter. There are only 5 match days left. Things are starting to heat up.
And next up, we've got Wagga City Wanderers hosting Gungahlin United Sunday, 8th of August, 2:30 p.m. at Gissing Oval. We've mentioned how many injuries Wagga City Wanderers have, so I think it's going to be difficult for them once again against a team that are clearly in form as well. Gungahlin United have turned the corner, and like we've mentioned, at a pivotal time of the season. So I'm going to say a Gungahlin United victory. Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to go for a Gungahlin United victory as well. The pressure just keeps on amplifying in terms of them needing to secure a top 4 spot, and I think with a big win against Canberra Olympic, it's going to boast, really well for them going forward until the end of the season. They need to keep winning. They need to pick up 3 points, and they need to get in the top 4. And that's all that will be on the mind of Diego Iglesias. So I say Gungahlin winning this one.
Jérémy?
Yeah, same. The podium is on reach. You got 2 opponents that are playing against each other. The other one is playing in Belconnen. It looks like their fate is already written, and that they're going to be third at the end of the weekend. They're going to play for that. They know they can have it after what has been a tough season. They're going to go there to get a solid win and to get that podium spot.
And next up, we've got Canberra United Academy, West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, August 8th, 3 p.m. at Hawker Football Centre. We've mentioned the poor form that West Canberra Wanderers have been in terms of that. CUA didn't get the victory this weekend, but their form has been a little better than West Canberra's. Based solely on that momentum, I'm going to go with a CUA victory. Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Academy as well, Matt. I see them just proving to be a little bit too strong against a West Canberra team that are struggling in this moment of time. So I'm going to go for CUA.
Jérémy?
Yeah, I'll go for West Canberra. CUA has played well, but I feel like they played right in the stride of West Canberra because they want to play football, because they want to keep the possession, and West Canberra will only be too happy to just defend and let them crash against their defense and try and take them over in counter attack. So if that plan works, it might be a few goals either side, and I think West Canberra might win that one. It's a very, very important game for the top 4 spots.
And next up, Tuggeranong United, Canberra, Croatia, Sunday, 8th of August, 3:10 p.m. at Canberra 201. I'm going to go with the Canberra Croatia victory here, but considering how much Tuggies have improved, I expect them to put up a good performance, and you'll probably see how well their shape has improved throughout the season. In saying that, though, Canberra Croatia victory for me. Michael?
Yeah, me too, Matt. I'm going for Canberra Croatia, but very stoked that Tuggeranong were able to get that win against Wagga. They thoroughly deserved it for the amount of effort that they've put in all season, and I think it's just a good opportunity for them to head into that Canberra Croatia match and put forward that same effort and desire that they show on the field to raise just a few eyebrows. I don't think that they'll win, but I think that win will just give them so much confidence going not only forward for the rest of this season, but in the years to come as well.
Jérémy?
Yeah, I think it'll be a Canberra Croatia win, and we know that Tuggeranong will bring up the fight, but we also know that it's hard to score against Canberra Croatia, the best defense with Belconnen right now in the league. I don't see Tuggeranong getting a result on there.
All right, that's us wrapped for NPLW. Jérémy, any last words before you head off? What match are you doing this weekend?
This weekend I'm doing the academy against West Canberra with Matty Moore. And last word, I just hope that we see a goal from Wagga City Wanderers this weekend. They have not scored in the last 9 games now, which 7 games, which also explains their lack of form. Obviously, 643 minutes. Thank you, Russ. Without scoring, which is not something that you like to see. Hopefully they'll get to find the back of the net against Gungahlin.
And now on to NPL2 action to round up all the football that we witnessed over this past weekend. And Matt, I'll kick things off for us. It was Queanbeyan City getting a tight and narrow 2-1 victory against Western Molonglo. Shields and Tomeski got on the score sheet for Queanbeyan. Sellers got on the score sheet for Western Molonglo. It was a tough win. They scored their opening 2 goals early, then they battled with Western for the rest of the matchup, and I think that's expected. When you score 2 early goals, there's still so much time left in the game for the other team to come back, and we always talk about how dangerous 2-0 leads are in football. But nevertheless, it's an important victory for Queanbeyan. They keep themselves within touching distance, obviously, of O'Connor and ANU, 5 points adrift. If they want to keep winning games and either side drop points, they could find themselves back in the thick of things, most definitely. So they just have to keep on winning and hope that those 2 teams are going to slip up at some point until the end of the season. The confidence and ambition within the Queanbeyan locker room is that they can keep pace and take advantage of opportunities if they arise, and I think that's got to be the mindset of a team in their position, most definitely. On the flip side of that, massive improvement for Western against Queanbeyan City. They haven't fared too well against Queanbeyan so far in their previous 2 meetings with them, heavy losses being 5-1 and 4-1. They were determined to right that wrong, especially in the second half, when they were pushing for that equalizer to add to Sellers' goal that cut back the lead. Ned Jeans hit the post 3 times in the second half, and Rory Larkin made some fantastic saves. Obviously, the man with NPL1 goalkeeping experience coming up big for Queanbeyan City there. Western can take a lot of positives from this game as they head into the Brindabella clash this weekend, as they're in need of changing their form against the Colwell side.
Yeah, and Ned Jeans is, I'm sure Ned Jeans will be flattered that you said he hit the post 3 times. Ned Jeans' side.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. I made it sound like he hit the post 3 times. No, I can see how it got a little bit, how my words got a little bit mistrued there. No, Western Molonglo hit the post 3 times, not not Ned Jeans.
Yeah, look, it was a positive performance for Western Molonglo, Michael. I mean, for them, I'm intrigued to see, can they take this into the Brindis match on the weekend? Because they haven't been able to beat the Brindis so far this season. Both matches the Brindis have won. Well, like we'll mention a little soon, a little closer to the date. But it's good to see that they were put in a performance, like you mentioned, against a team that they have not fared well against this season. 2 big score lines and 2 sort of big gaps in the play, especially in that first matchup that we saw at the start of the season. In terms of Queanbeyan City, like you mentioned, very important victory, even if they needed to sort of scrape this one out compared to their previous results against Western. They got the points, 5 points off the top, like you mentioned. Still, both matches, all 3 teams in first, second, third still have 1 match in hand. So what they'd be hoping for is either or beat each other, or either or ANU or O'Connor beat each other, or actually, no, they prefer a draw, wouldn't they? They prefer a draw in that situation. And both ANU and O'Connor have dropped points in the last 2 weeks, like we're going to mention soon as well. If that happens again, then Queanbeyan need to be ready to pounce, but they need to focus on themselves and win all their remaining matches, or as many as they can, to put themselves into that position. All right, next up. Oh, sorry. Did you have any thoughts on that one? Oh, no, wait. You don't worry. I'll edit that. Don't worry. Okay. Next up, Brindabella Blues. A 5-0 loss against Canberra White Eagles. Booth Al-Nuwasi on the score sheet again. He's been in good form for White Eagles this season. McCarthy, Ben Townsley scoring a goal back from his injury a week or 2 ago. And Belyansky as well scoring for White Eagles. Huge win for the White Eagles as they break away from Yoogali on goal difference. Let's not forget they still have 2 matches in hand, though. White Eagles still yet to be played. There's not a lot of time, Michael. I hope these matches are going to get replayed eventually before finals time. I mean,
absolutely.
I was told by someone that maybe a few of them have been replayed, but at the start of last week, there was a total of at least 45 matches in between NPL youth and the senior comps that needed to be replayed before the end of the season.
Just goes to show the weather and how much the weather has had an impact over the last month. It's been horrible.
Which is why I'm glad that the week before those matches were able to get moved. So someone like a White Eagles, like we're talking about right now, didn't have to have 3 matches that needs to be replayed, because then that's even more of a stretch. But in terms of the match, White Eagles like this fixture. They've scored a combined 14 goals against the Brindis in all the matches. They seem to be in very good form at the moment. Like we mentioned, that 4th spot is in their hands. The momentum is in their hands with those matches in hand. Even though they are tying with points on points with Yoogali at the moment. Brindis, they'll be disappointed with this one. But especially considering the last 2 matches, obviously they were big score lines, but the Brindis were still able to score 2 goals in each of those matches and make those matches a little more competitive. So unfortunate for them. But like I mentioned with Western Molonglo, this weekend, they'll look to put the result behind them, and they'll both feel like they can win this one, especially with the Brindis, considering that they have beaten Western Molonglo twice this season already. Any thoughts on this one before we move on?
No, obviously a huge win for White Eagles. I mean, it's exactly what they needed in terms of, really cementing their place in the top format. And I think you mentioned all those combined elements there of the victory that they so desperately needed, especially when you consider the top 4 race. It's very close. So a great win for White Eagles. But moving on, ANU, wow, 8 goals for them in this game against Wagga City Wanderers, 8-2 win. Deans with a hat trick, Kagler, Model, Peterkin, Lopez, and Hines getting on the score sheet for the home team. Stevens found the back of the net twice for Wagga. Huge win for ANU. They needed a strong response after dropping points in the race from promotion as they drew with White Eagles last week. They also fell considerably behind on goal difference last week, which they've made up for in this game, given the huge scoreline. It was important win also in hindsight as O'Connor dropped points that we'll mention very shortly. Another tough loss for Wagga. They now head to the Riverina Derby on the back of, conceding 8 goals in consecutive matches against their regional compatriots, who, they've just drawn against the top side. So it kind of shows you the difference of how both of those teams are heading into that derby. They didn't stop fighting, though, as they got on the score sheet with star player Luke Stevens once again going on the score sheet with a brace. It was just overall very convincing from ANU. It's what they've managed to do all season long. They're a great side. Matt, I mean, emphatic is probably the word that comes to mind when you think of this ANU team, isn't it?
Yeah, and like you mentioned, summed up well, very strong response. They needed a response like this. Now, granted, the Yoogali and O'Connor match happened the day after. So it's not like they could have known that it was going to be a draw. So in retrospect, it was even more important considering that they got the win when O'Connor dropped some points. I just checked the leaderboard then for the goal scoring, and with Peterkin's goal, that means he has 7 goals now, second top goal scorer for ANU. The top goal scorer for ANU so far this season is, of course, Sam Carter's, who's on 12 points. 12 goals in 14 matches, and he's only 1 goal off Mark Shields, who is currently the top goal scorer in NPL2 with 13 goals. But like I mentioned, very important for ANU. It's tit for tat now, isn't it, Michael? One gets a draw the week before. Now the other gets a draw now. The other gets a massive, scores 8 goals. Now another scores 8 goals. But ANU, like you mentioned, they've made it up with a goal difference. One goal the difference now.
That's
so
right.
It's becoming that tit for tat that it's goal difference, points, this, that. It's going to go down to the wire. Let's not forget, they still have to play each other twice this season to come. So depending when that match gets rescheduled, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It's going to be one fantastic battle in that regard. All right, moving on. We've got Yoogali, like we've just mentioned. We sort of just mentioned it before, didn't we? O'Connor Knights won, Yoogali won. Vitucci with the goal for Yoogali. Wilsoner with the goal for O'Connor Knights. Like we mentioned, drop points for O'Connor Knights away from home. Always tough to travel to Griffith against such a quality opposition in Yoogali, and we've talked about how strong they are at home, Yoogali. Unfortunately for O'Connor Knights, that's 2 points now. They dropped to ANU. They're still on top, though, like we mentioned, due to goal difference. So not conceding against Wagga was crucial for them in hindsight last week, as they slightly in the head of that, in the pole position for that race. Yoogali, this one raring to go, considering last week's match against Weston. Weston forfeited last week's match, so they were a week without football. A little bit of a rest, but as you would know as a player yourself, Michael, whenever that happens, you just want to play. It doesn't matter if you've got those 3 points. Right. You just want to play. So so they were raring to go. They gear up for the Riverina Derby. So knowing that White Eagles sit in the driver's seat with 2 matches in hand, despite them tying on goal difference for 4th place, it's going to be interesting to see how they gear up, knowing that they need to get a win, and they need to keep winning if they want to make that top 4, Michael.
Yeah, that's right. They've got to do everything that they can, Matt. I mean, when we speak about O'Connor, it really is a thrilling, race to get this promotion to NPL1. I don't know if anyone could have predicted it being this close before the start of the season, but it makes for great viewing. And the intensity and, the unknown factor of who's going to, prevail out of the 2 teams. And like you said, O'Connor and ANU still have to play each other twice. So it's going to be fantastic. It's obviously not the result that they wanted, considering how tight it is between themselves and ANU, but they'll just have to put this result behind them and and look to get back in the winner's circle this weekend.
And talking about the matches this weekend, let's get straight into it. Round 17 predictions and previews. Michael, let's start with Wagga City Wanderers, Yoogali, the Riverina Derby, as we like to call it. Not the official name, I don't believe, but that's what we call it here on the Canberra Football Show. Saturday, August 7th, 2:15 p.m. at Gissing Oval. Who do you have in this one, Michael?
This is going to be a good encounter in the derby. I'm going to go for a Yoogali victory, Matt, on the back of that draw that they had against O'Connor Knights.
Yeah, I agree. Huge momentum for them, and like I mentioned just before, Yoogali are in a spot where they know they need to win their remaining matches, right, considering that White Eagles are in that pole position. I keep repeating it, but it's so important in this race for that fourth spot for the finals. So considering that, I think they'll win, but I think it's going to be a little closer than what their last results have shown in this matchup. Next up, we have Brindabella Blues, Western Molonglo, Saturday, August 7th, 3 p.m. at Melrose Synthetic. This is going to be very interesting. Like I've mentioned, Brindabella have gotten the last two victories in this one, but Western Molonglo arguably had the better performance on the weekend heading into this one. It might be a little against the grain considering the weekend's form, but considering the results against these two sides, it's going to be a very close matchup. But I think Brindis are gonna just nudge this one. And before you give yours, Michael, both of these teams are tied on 7 points in last place essentially, but Western Molonglo have a worse goal difference, so all to play for in that regard to get themselves off the bottom of the table. Who are you going for in this one, Michael?
I'm going to go for Western Molonglo in this one, Matt. It's going to be a very tight contest. I know that you mentioned that Brindy have won the two encounters that they've played so far this season, but I think going off the back of that Queanbeyan City game, Western will have a lot of confidence. Obviously, they struck the post 3 times. It could have been very well different for them had, their fortunes gone the other way in their favour. So I'm going to go for Western Molonglo to get the 3 points in this one.
Next up, huge match, the derby, another derby in Canberra football. Canberra White Eagles against O'Connor Knights, Saturday, August 7th, 3 p.m. at Woden Park in Close. I'm sure they're going to be running out of Eagle burgers like the last time Russ and I were there for this match, I think it was actually. Yeah. So I'm going to go for O'Connor Knights victory in this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one's maybe a draw because White Eagles have been in really good form lately and it is the derby. It is always very close, but considering that O'Connor Knights drew and dropped some points this last weekend, they're going to be raring to go, but there's not going to be a lot in this one. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Matt. I think O'Connor Knights, but it's going to be close. And I definitely wouldn't be surprised if White Eagles were to take points from ANU 1 week and then O'Connor the next to really just throw more of a spanner in the works in terms of who's going to finish top of the NPL2 ladder. And
they have defeated O'Connor Knights this year as well, White Eagles, and they've drawn with ANU twice. So they have some good form in these matches, don't they? Next, last up, we've got ANU FC versus Queanbeyan City, another massive matchup. Saturday, August 7th, 3:15 p.m. at ANU South Oval. Oh, this is a tough one. This really is a tough one. I'm going to go ANU with ANU FC solely based on the last matches these two have played against each other. ANU with both of the victories. But it just seems like ANU know how to flick the switch and know how to play defense. They know how to sort out their defense against a Queanbeyan City side. They just seem to know how to play against them.
Yeah.
This could easily go all of 3 ways. I know it sounds generic, but it really can. But I think ANU just have that extra element to be able to switch to a defensive formation if they need to. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I think ANU is going to pip it, but it's going to be a very close game. Queanbeyan obviously have a lot of confidence, but in these sort of games, it's where they struggle, especially against an ANU side that are so defensively stable and rock solid. We'll see if they're able to change that narrative this weekend, but I can't see it happening against a team like ANU who are in such good form. So I expect ANU to win.
All right, that's episode 39 done and dusted. When we next speak to you, it will be episode 40. Hopefully Russ will be on for that one as well. Matty Moore, I'm sure, will be on for the NPLW. All right, Michael, another good episode and some massive matches of football this week. Any last words?
Yeah, some great games this weekend across, NPL 1, NPL 2, and NPLW. So we'll have plenty to dissect on our 40th episode, Matt. We're finally going to reach that 4-0. So very much looking forward to it.
We certainly are. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. As always, we'll see you next week for episode 40. Enjoy the football.